The bright lights of the space station hurt Jake Phillips' eyes as he walked out of the simulation room. His face was red with shame. He had lasted only 43 minutes against the alien commander. The other humans in the waiting area looked at him with sad eyes. They all knew what this meant. Another failure, whispered Lieutenant Kate Brown to her friend. That makes it 12 humans who couldn't last even an hour. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. His hands were still shaking from the neural interface. The simulation felt so real that his body thought he had actually been in space, commanding real ships in a real battle. But it was all just a test that humans kept failing. The Galactic Federation had built this simulation 3 years ago. It was supposed to find the best military minds from all the different alien species. The winners would get to plan the real battles when the next war came. So far, no human had even come close to winning. Lisa Morgan stood near the big window that looked out into space. She watched the alien delegates talking among themselves. The tall blue ones with 4 arms were the Korvaxi. They moved their extra arms when they got excited, which they did a lot when humans lost. The crystal people were the Vithani. They shared thoughts with each other, so they always knew what their teammates were thinking. The robot-looking ones were the Nexari. They had computer brains that could think faster than any living creature. And then there was Carthex. He was the champion of the Zephyrians. For 3 years, he had won every single battle in the simulation. He was 8 feet tall with gray skin and 6 eyes. When he looked at humans, those eyes seemed to say that humans were nothing more than insects. Captain Morgan, a voice said behind her. Lisa turned to see Admiral Karen Blake walking toward her. The Admiral looked tired. She had been watching humans fail for weeks now. Yes, Admiral? Lisa asked. You're our last chance, Admiral Blake said quietly. The Federation Council meets tomorrow. They're going to decide if humans are smart enough to help plan military operations. If you fail like the others, they'll send us home. Earth will have no voice in galactic defense. Lisa looked back out the window. She could see other alien ships docked at the station. Each one represented a species that had proven themselves in the simulation. Each one had earned their place at the table where important decisions were made. What makes you think I'll do better than the others? Lisa asked. Admiral Blake smiled for the first time in days. Because you're different, Lisa. The other commanders studied alien tactics. They tried to copy what worked for other species. But you've been studying something else, haven't you? Lisa nodded. Human history. Every battle Earth has ever fought. Every strategy humans have ever used. Exactly, the Admiral said. The aliens think they understand humans because they've seen our commanders fail. But they've only seen humans trying to be like them. They've never seen a human being truly human. On the other side of the room, the alien delegates were celebrating Jake's defeat. The Korvaxi were clicking their claws together in what Lisa knew was laughter. The Vithani crystals were glowing brighter, showing their happiness. Even the emotionless Nexari seemed pleased with their blinking lights. Look at them, Admiral Blake said. They think they know everything about warfare. They think their perfect strategies and flawless tactics make them superior. But they've never faced a human who fights like a human. Lisa watched as Carthex entered the room. The other aliens immediately made space for him. He was not just a champion. He was their proof that some species were better than others. His 6 eyes scanned the room until they found Lisa. When their eyes met, she saw nothing but cold calculation. The human female will be my next opponent, Carthex announced. His voice was deep and harsh. I have studied your species' military history. You are predictable creatures driven by emotion rather than logic. You make decisions based on feelings instead of facts. This weakness has cost you every battle in this simulation. The other aliens murmured their agreement. They had all seen the same thing. Humans got angry when they were losing. They took unnecessary risks to save their soldiers. They made choices that computers would never make. Maybe that's true, Lisa said, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. Maybe humans are emotional. Maybe we do make decisions that don't make sense to you. Carthex tilted his head. Then you admit your species is inferior? I admit that humans are different, Lisa replied. The question is whether different means weak or just misunderstood. The room fell silent. No human had ever challenged Carthex directly. The other commanders had always been respectful, even when they were losing. But Lisa wasn't like the other commanders. You will enter the simulation tomorrow, Carthex said. I will demonstrate once again why humans do not belong among the strategic minds of the galaxy. I look forward to it, Lisa said calmly. After Carthex left, Admiral Blake came over to Lisa. Are you ready for this? Do you really think you can beat him? Lisa looked out the window again. Earth was visible in the distance, a small blue dot among the stars. Somewhere on that planet, billions of humans were going about their daily lives, not knowing that their future in the galaxy depended on what happened in this simulation. I don't know if I can beat him, Lisa said honestly, but I know something he doesn't know. What's that? He's been studying human military history, but he's been studying it wrong. He thinks our emotions make us weak. He thinks our unpredictability is a flaw. But what if he's wrong? What if the things that make us different are actually what make you strong? Admiral Blake nodded slowly. You're going to show him that humans don't fight like other species. Exactly, Lisa said. Every other species in this simulation fights to win. They use perfect tactics and flawless strategies. But humans don't just fight to win. We fight to protect what we love. We fight to give hope to the hopeless. We fight to prove that even the smallest and weakest can make a difference. The next morning would bring the final test. Lisa would enter the simulation that had defeated every other human commander. She would face Carthex and his perfect strategies. But unlike the others, she wouldn't try to beat him at his own game. She would play by human rules. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The simulation chamber was bigger than Lisa had expected. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and battle statistics. In the center of the room stood two pods that looked like giant metal eggs. One was for her, and one was for Carthex. Lisa could feel dozens of eyes watching her as she walked across the room. The alien delegates filled the observation deck above. They whispered among themselves in languages she didn't understand, but she could guess what they were saying. Another human was about to fail. Are you nervous? Asked Dr. Pete Wilson, the human technician who would monitor her vital signs during the simulation. A little, Lisa admitted, but not about losing. I'm nervous about what happens to Earth if I can't prove that humans deserve to be here. Dr. Wilson checked the neural interface connections one more time. The simulation will feel completely real. Your brain will think you're actually commanding a space fleet. Try to remember that it's just a test. Lisa nodded, but she knew it wasn't just a test. It was humanity's last chance to prove they belonged in the galactic community. If she failed, Earth would be left out of all future military planning. When the next war came, humans would have no say in their own defense. Carthex was already in his pod. Through the transparent aluminum, Lisa could see him lying perfectly still. His 6 eyes were closed, and his breathing was slow and steady. He looked like a machine preparing for battle. The simulation will begin in 60 seconds, announced the station's computer. Both commanders will have identical fleets of 200 ships. Victory conditions are simple. Destroy or disable the enemy fleet. Lisa climbed into her pod and felt the neural interface helmet settle over her head. Tiny needles connected to her brain, allowing the computer to read her thoughts and translate them into commands for her simulated fleet. 30 seconds, the computer announced. Lisa closed her eyes and tried to calm her mind. She thought about all the human battles she had studied. Not the famous victories, but the desperate struggles. The times when humans had been outnumbered and outgunned, but had found a way to survive. 10 seconds. She thought about the Alamo, where a small group of humans had fought to the death to buy time for others. She thought about the Battle of Britain, where a few pilots had saved their entire nation. She thought about every underdog story in human history. Simulation begins now. The world exploded into light and sound. Lisa found herself standing on the bridge of a battleship, surrounded by holographic displays showing her fleet. 200 ships of various sizes spread out before her, waiting for her commands. Across the battlefield, Carthex's fleet was already moving. His ships formed perfect geometric patterns as they advanced. Every vessel was exactly where it should be for maximum effectiveness. It was beautiful in its precision. Impressive, Lisa said to herself, but predictable. The other human commanders had tried to match this perfection. They had studied alien tactics and attempted to copy them, but Lisa had a different plan. She began giving orders that seemed random to the observers. "Fleet Command, this is Admiral Morgan," she said, using the simulation's communication system. "Break formation. All ships scatter and head for the asteroid field." Her ships immediately broke apart, flying in different directions. To the watching aliens, it looked like chaos. The Korvaxi delegates chittered with amusement. The Vithani crystals glowed with what Lisa knew was their version of laughter. "The human has panicked already," observed Commander Vextar of the Korvaxi. "Her ships are fleeing in all directions." But Admiral Blake, watching from the human section, noticed something different. "No," she said quietly. "Look at the pattern. She's not running away. She's spreading out." Carthex's response was immediate and textbook perfect. His fleet split into 3 groups, each one designed to pursue a different section of Lisa's scattered forces. It was exactly what any military academy would teach: divide and conquer. "Predictable," Lisa muttered as she watched his movements. "You're doing exactly what I thought you would do." Her ships reached the asteroid field and immediately began using the giant rocks as cover. This was basic space combat. Hide behind obstacles to avoid enemy fire. But Lisa wasn't just hiding. She was positioning her ships very carefully. "What is she doing?" asked the Nexari observer, its electronic voice filled with curiosity. "Her positioning makes no tactical sense." Lisa's ships were indeed in strange positions. Some were too close to the asteroids. Others were too far away to use them as effective cover. A few were completely exposed, floating in empty space as if they were waiting to be shot. Carthex saw these easy targets and took them. His ships moved with perfect efficiency, destroying the exposed vessels with precise shots. Within minutes, Lisa had lost 20 ships, then 30, then 40. "She's losing badly," said one of the Vithani collective. "This will be over soon." But Lisa didn't seem worried about her losses. She kept giving orders that made no sense to the observers. Her ships fired at empty space. They flew in circles around asteroids. Some of them even seemed to be shooting at the asteroids themselves. "Is she malfunctioning?" asked a Korvaxi delegate. "Her tactics are completely irrational." Dr. Wilson was monitoring Lisa's brain activity from the human section. "Her neural patterns are normal," he reported. "She knows exactly what she's doing." Carthex was becoming impatient. His perfect formations were having trouble dealing with Lisa's chaotic movements. Every time he tried to engage her main force, her ships would scatter in different directions. It was like trying to fight smoke. "Stand still and fight," Carthex commanded over the communication system. Your cowardly tactics dishonor the simulation, Lisa laughed. Cowardly? I prefer to think of it as creative. She had been in the simulation for an hour now, longer than any other human. But she was still losing ships at a steady rate. Her fleet was down to 160 vessels, while Carthax had lost only 30. The human is lasting longer than expected, admitted the Nexari observer. But she cannot win through evasion alone. Lisa knew this was true. She couldn't keep running forever. But she wasn't trying to win through evasion. She was trying to win through preparation. Every move she had made, every seemingly random order she had given, was part of a larger plan. Phase 1 complete, she said to herself. Time for Phase 2. She began giving new orders to her fleet. Her ships stopped running and started moving with purpose. They formed up in a loose formation and began advancing toward Carthax's position. Finally, Carthax said with satisfaction, "The human has decided to fight properly." His ships moved to meet her advance. The two fleets approached each other across the asteroid field, weapons charging for the decisive battle. It looked like a traditional space engagement was about to begin, but Lisa had one more surprise. As the fleets closed to weapons range, she gave a single command that changed everything. "All ships," she said calmly, "execute Order 77. The asteroid field exploded. Hidden mines that Lisa had been placing throughout the battle detonated simultaneously. Asteroids that her ships had been randomly shooting began to break apart, sending debris flying in all directions. The careful positioning that had seemed so irrational suddenly made perfect sense. Carthax's perfect formation was caught in the middle of the chaos. His ships, arranged for maximum firing efficiency, were also arranged for maximum vulnerability to the debris storm Lisa had created. Impossible, breathed Commander Vextar. She turned the entire battlefield into a weapon. But Lisa wasn't done. Yet. As Carthax's ships struggled to maintain formation in the artificial asteroid storm, she revealed the true genius of her strategy. She hadn't just been hiding mines and breaking asteroids. She had been studying her enemy. "Every move you've made has been by the book," Lisa announced over the communication system. "Every formation, every response, every tactical decision. You're so predictable that I've been planning my next move based on what you would do 3 moves from now." The observation deck fell silent. The aliens had never seen anything like this. Lisa hadn't just defeated Carthax's tactics. She had used his own predictability against him. "Now," Lisa said, "let me show you how humans really fight." The asteroid field had become a nightmare of flying rocks and exploding debris. Carthax's perfect formations were breaking apart as his ships tried to avoid the chaos Lisa had created. But even in this confusion, the Zephyrian commander was adapting quickly. Impressive deception, Carthax admitted over the communication channel. But chaos cannot defeat superior tactics forever. "My ships are already reforming." Lisa watched as his fleet began to pull back from the debris field. Even damaged and scattered, his ships moved with mechanical precision. Within minutes, they would be back in perfect formation, ready to continue the battle. "He's right," Lisa said to herself. "I can't win with tricks alone." The observers on the deck were talking excitedly among themselves. The Korvaxi were impressed by Lisa's creative use of the environment. The Vethany Collective was analyzing her strategy with their shared consciousness. Even the emotionless Nexari seemed interested in her unusual tactics. "The human has shown unexpected cunning," observed the Nexari delegate. "But her fleet is still outnumbered. She has 140 ships remaining against Carthax's 170. Admiral Blake was watching the tactical display with growing hope. "She's lasted longer than any human before her. And she's actually damaged his fleet. But can she win?" asked Dr. Wilson. She's used her biggest surprise. What does she do now? Lisa was asking herself the same question. Her trap had worked perfectly, but Carthex was already recovering. His ships were pulling back to a safe distance, reforming their battle lines. Soon he would advance again, and this time he would be ready for her tricks. "Computer," Lisa said, to her ship's artificial intelligence, "show me the tactical history of this battle." A holographic display appeared, showing the movements of both fleets over the past hour. Lisa studied it carefully, looking for patterns and weaknesses. "Interesting," she said. "Computer, highlight all instances where Carthex S-ships have deviated from standard Zephyrian tactics." The display changed, showing only a few small movements. Carthex had been fighting exactly as his training had taught him. Every maneuver was from the textbook. Every response was predictable. That's his weakness, Lisa realized. He's so perfect that he's predictable. She began giving new orders to her fleet. Instead of trying to match Carthex's precision, she did the opposite. Her ships began moving in patterns that made no sense according to any military textbook. "What is she doing now?" asked Commander Vextar. "Her ships are moving like they're dancing instead of fighting." Lisa's fleet was indeed moving in what looked like a dance. Ships paired up and spun around each other. Others moved in spirals and loops. To the alien observers, it looked like Lisa had gone insane, but there was method to her madness. Every seemingly random movement was actually part of a larger pattern. Her ships were positioning themselves in 3 dimensions, creating a complex web of firing positions and escape routes. Carthex watched this display with growing confusion. "Human commander," he said over the communication system, "your tactics make no sense. Are you surrendering?" "Not surrendering," Lisa replied. "Just thinking differently than you're used to." She gave another series of orders, and her ships began firing, but they weren't shooting at Carthex's fleet. Instead, they were firing at specific points in empty space. "She's wasting ammunition," said a Corvaxi delegate. "Her ships are shooting at nothing." But Lisa wasn't shooting at nothing. She was shooting at where Carthex's ships would be. Based on his predictable tactics, she could calculate exactly where he would move his fleet next. "All ships," Lisa commanded, "begin Operation Human Nature." Her fleet suddenly changed tactics again. Instead of maintaining formation, each ship began acting independently. Some charged directly at the enemy. Others retreated. A few seemed to be running away from the battle entirely. "Chaos," muttered the Nexari observer. "Pure chaos." But it wasn't chaos. It was controlled unpredictability. Lisa had studied every human battle in history, and she had learned something that the aliens didn't understand. Humans didn't fight like machines. They fought like individuals. Carthex tried to respond to this new tactic, but his training failed. Every formation he used was designed to fight against organized opposition. He didn't know how to fight against ships that were all acting differently. "Impossible," he said as his carefully planned attacks missed their targets. "How can I fight an enemy that has no strategy?" "That's where you're wrong," Lisa said. "I do have a strategy. I'm just not using your strategy." Her ships began working together in ways that seemed impossible. They covered each other's retreats, shared ammunition, and coordinated attacks without any apparent communication. It was like watching a flock of birds or a school of fish, individual actions that somehow created a unified result. "How are they doing that?" asked the Vethany Collective. "They're not using standard communication protocols." Admiral Blake smiled as she watched the display. "They're using human intuition. Each captain is guessing what the others need and responding accordingly." This was something the aliens had never seen before. Their species fought with perfect coordination because they planned everything in advance. But humans could coordinate without planning, using instinct and empathy to work together. Carthix was becoming frustrated. His perfect formations were being torn apart by opponents who seemed to know what he was going to do before he did it. Every time he tried to establish a battle line, Lisa's ships would attack it from an unexpected angle. "This is not proper warfare," he protested. "There are rules. There are proper tactics." "Says who?" Lisa replied. "Your rules? Your tactics? I'm not Sephirin. I'm human. And humans fight differently." She began the next phase of her plan. Her ships, which had been scattered across the battlefield, suddenly began converging on a single point, but not in a straight line. They approached from dozens of different angles, at different speeds, using different routes. "She's concentrating her forces," observed the Korvaxi delegate, "but in the most inefficient way possible." But Lisa's inefficiency was intentional. By approaching from multiple angles, she was forcing Carthix to divide his attention. His ships couldn't focus on a single threat because there were threats coming from everywhere. "Concentrate fire on the main attack group." Carthix ordered his fleet. "Which one?" his tactical officer asked. "There are 17 different attack groups." This was Lisa's genius. She had turned her entire fleet into a single weapon while making it look like 17 different weapons. Carthix couldn't defend against all of them at once. "The human is using our own tactical training against us," realized the Nexari observer. "We are programmed to focus on the primary threat, but she has made every ship a primary threat." Lisa's ships reached their target, the center of Carthix's S formation. But instead of attacking, they did something unexpected. They stopped. "What are you doing?" Carthix demanded. "Giving you a choice," Lisa replied. "You can keep fighting and we'll destroy each other, or you can listen to what I have to say." The aliens in the observation deck were stunned. No commander had ever offered to negotiate in the middle of a battle simulation. It was against the rules of warfare. "This is impossible," said Commander Vextar. "The simulation is designed for combat, not conversation." But Lisa wasn't following the simulation's rules. She was following human rules. And human rules said that sometimes the best way to win a war was to stop fighting. "You're going to lose," Lisa told Carthix. "Not because you're a bad commander, but because you're fighting the wrong kind of war. You're fighting a war of mathematics and precision. But I'm fighting a war of creativity and adaptation." Carthix's formation was surrounded by Lisa's ships, but none of them were firing. They were just waiting, like a trap that hadn't been sprung yet. "What do you want?" Carthix asked. "I want you to understand something," Lisa said. "Humans don't fight to prove we're the best. We fight to protect what we love. And sometimes that means finding a way for everyone to survive." The observation deck had gone completely silent. The aliens had never heard anything like this in a military simulation. War was about victory and defeat, not about survival and protection. "You're offering me surrender?" Carthix asked. "I'm offering you wisdom," Lisa replied. "The wisdom to know when fighting is pointless." She was about to spring her final trap. But unlike every other trap in the simulation, this one was designed not to destroy her enemy, but to save him. The silence on the observation deck was so complete that the hum of the space station's engines seemed loud. Every alien delegate was staring at the tactical display, trying to understand what was happening. Lisa's ships surrounded Carthix formation, but they weren't attacking. They were just waiting. "What is she doing?" whispered the Vithani collective to each other. "This is not warfare. This is something else." Carthix was equally confused. His tactical training had prepared him for many situations, but not for an enemy who stopped fighting in the middle of a battle to offer conversation. "Human commander," he said carefully, "explain your strategy. Why do you pause when victory is within your reach?" Lisa smiled inside her simulation pod. Because victory isn't always about destroying your enemy. Sometimes it's about making them understand why they don't need to be your enemy. She gave a signal to her fleet. Suddenly, the tactical display lit up with new information. Hidden throughout the asteroid field were hundreds of small devices that Lisa's ships had been secretly placing during the entire battle. Sensor mines, breathed the Nexari observer. She's been mapping our every movement. But they weren't just sensor mines. Lisa had been creating a three-dimensional web of information that tracked every single ship in Carfex S fleet. She knew exactly where each vessel was, how fast it was moving, and what weapons it carried. For the past 2 hours, Lisa announced, I've been studying your fleet. Every ship, every weapon, every tactical pattern. I know your formation better than you do. The tactical display showed the information she had gathered. Red lines connected every ship in Carfex S fleet, showing their communication patterns. Blue dots marked their weapon systems. Green circles highlighted their weak points. Impossible, Carfex said. My ships are protected by the best encryption in the galaxy. You cannot have penetrated our systems. I didn't need to, Lisa replied. I just needed to watch and learn. Humans are very good at pattern recognition. We can predict behavior without understanding the technology behind it. She was right. While Carfex had been focusing on maintaining perfect formations and executing flawless tactics, Lisa had been observing and analyzing. She had turned the entire battlefield into a laboratory for studying alien military behavior. Show him the projection. Lisa ordered her tactical computer. The display changed again, showing a computer model of what would happen if the battle continued. Based on the patterns Lisa had observed, her system could predict Carfex S next 20 moves with 97% accuracy. You're going to pull your ships back into a defensive formation, Lisa said. Then you'll try to break through my weakest point, which you think is my left flank. But I've been deliberately keeping that flank weak to draw you into a trap. Carfex stared at the projection. It was exactly what he had been planning to do. His next moves were laid out on the screen as if he had already made them. This is impossible, he said. You cannot predict the future. I can't predict the future, Lisa agreed. But I can predict you. You follow the same tactical patterns that every Zephyrian commander has used for the past 1,000 years. You're predictable because you're perfect. The alien observers were beginning to understand what was happening. Lisa hadn't just been fighting a battle. She had been conducting an experiment in alien psychology. She's been studying us, realized Commander Vextar. Not just our tactics, but our thinking patterns. Lisa's ships began moving again, but not to attack. They were repositioning themselves to counter every move that Carfex would make in the next hour. It was like watching someone set up a chessboard for a game that hadn't been played yet. You see, Lisa explained, every other species in this simulation fights with their brains. They calculate the best move and execute it perfectly. But humans fight with their hearts. We make decisions based on intuition and emotion. She pointed to the tactical display. Your formations are mathematically perfect. Your timing is flawless. Your execution is without error. But you're also completely predictable. You'll always choose the most logical option. Carfex tried to prove her wrong. He ordered his ships to execute a maneuver that was tactically questionable but unexpected. But Lisa's ships were already in position to counter it. Nice try, she said. But even your attempt to be unpredictable follows a pattern. You chose the second most logical option because you thought it would surprise me. But I predicted that too. The truth was becoming clear to everyone watching. Lisa hadn't just defeated Carfex's tactics. She had defeated his entire way of thinking. She had shown that logic and perfection, while powerful, were also limiting. This is what humans call thinking outside the box, Lisa continued. We don't just use the best strategy. We use strategies that other species would never consider because they seem illogical. But now came the most important part of her plan. Lisa could have used her knowledge to destroy Carthex's fleet completely. Her sensors had identified every weakness, every vulnerability. She could have won the simulation with a single coordinated attack. Instead, she did something that shocked everyone in the observation deck. Carthex, she said, I'm going to show you something that no other species in this simulation has ever seen. I'm going to show you mercy. Her ships began backing away from his formation. The trap that had taken hours to set up was being voluntarily abandoned. I don't understand, Carthex said. You have me surrounded. You know my every move. You could destroy my fleet. Why do you retreat? Because destroying you doesn't prove that humans are superior, Lisa replied. It just proves that we can be destructive. But any species can be destructive. What makes humans special is that we can choose not to be. She was creating a corridor through her forces, a path that would allow Carthex to escape with most of his fleet intact. But taking that path would mean admitting defeat and abandoning the simulation. You're offering me surrender? Carthex asked again. I'm offering you understanding, Lisa said. The understanding that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose not to fight. The alien delegates were having heated discussions among themselves. This was unlike anything they had ever seen. Military simulations were about proving dominance, not about showing mercy to defeated opponents. What is she doing? Demanded the Corvaxi delegate. She has victory in her grasp. Why does she throw it away? Admiral Blake was watching with tears in her eyes, because she's showing them who we really are. She's showing them that humans don't fight just to win. We fight to protect. And sometimes, protecting means protecting even our enemies. Lisa's tactical display showed the escape route she had created. It was narrow and dangerous, but it would allow Carthex to retreat with about half his fleet. The other half would be trapped if he chose to continue fighting. You have a choice, Lisa told him. You can keep fighting according to your training, and we'll destroy each other. Or you can take the path I've given you and live to fight another day. Carthex stared at the display. In 3 years of commanding in the simulation, no opponent had ever offered him a choice. They had all tried to defeat him through superior tactics or better technology. But Lisa was defeating him through superior wisdom. Why? He asked. Why show mercy to an enemy who has shown you none? Because that's what makes us human, Lisa replied. We believe that even our enemies deserve a chance to learn and grow. We believe that understanding is more powerful than destruction. The trap was set, but it was unlike any trap that had ever been used in warfare. It was a trap that captured not ships, but minds. A trap that defeated not through violence, but through compassion. The choice is yours, Lisa said. But choose. Quickly, my patience has limits, and my fleet is getting restless. Carthex looked at his options. He could fight and probably lose half his fleet. Or he could retreat and admit that a human had outsmarted him. For a proud Zephyrian commander, it was the hardest choice he had ever faced. Doppelkey began, then stopped. The weight of the decision was crushing him. Everything he had been taught about warfare said that retreat was shameful. But everything he had learned about humans in the past few hours suggested that maybe shame was less important than survival. Time's up, Lisa said gently. What's your choice? The seconds stretched like hours as Carthex stared at the tactical display. His entire fleet was trapped in Lisa's web of sensors and predictions. Every possible move he could make was already countered. Every strategy he had learned was useless against an opponent who had studied him so completely. I have never faced such a situation, he admitted over the communication channel. In all my years of command, no enemy has ever offered me the choice to retreat with honor. Lisa's ships remained perfectly still, maintaining the corridor she had created. Her weapons were powered down, showing that she meant no immediate harm. But everyone in the simulation knew that she could destroy his fleet at any moment. That's because you've never fought humans before, Lisa said. Every other species in this simulation fights to prove their superiority. But humans fight for different reasons. On the observation deck, the alien delegates were having intense discussions. The Korvaxi were arguing about the tactical implications of showing mercy to an enemy. The Vithani Collective was analyzing the psychological impact of Lisa's strategy. The Nexari were calculating the probability of success for this unprecedented approach. This changes everything, said Commander Vextar quietly. If humans can defeat our best commander through compassion rather than force, what does that say about our understanding of warfare? Admiral Blake watched the display with growing pride. Lisa had done something that no military academy in the phone galaxy taught. She had won a battle by refusing to destroy her enemy. Computer, Carthex said to his ship's artificial intelligence. Calculate the probability of victory if I continue this engagement. Calculating, the computer replied. Based on current tactical positions and enemy sensor coverage, probability of victory is 12%. Probability of fleet survival is 31%. Carthex closed his 6 eyes and considered his options. He had spent his entire life following the warrior code of his people. Retreat was considered the greatest shame a Zephyrian commander could face. But Lisa had shown him something new, that sometimes wisdom was more valuable than pride. Human commander, he said finally, you have given me much to think about. Your tactics are unlike anything I have encountered. But I must ask if I retreat. Now, what guarantee do I have that you will not pursue and destroy my remaining ships? Lisa's response surprised everyone in the observation chamber. You have my word as a human being. And among my people, that's the strongest guarantee there. Is your word? Carthex asked. Not a tactical agreement or a formal treaty. Just your personal promise? Just my personal promise, Lisa confirmed. Humans believe that the word of an honorable person is more binding than any legal document. If I say you can retreat safely, then you can retreat safely. The alien observers were stunned by this concept. In their societies, agreements were enforced through laws and contracts. The idea that a simple personal promise could be trusted was almost incomprehensible. She's basing military strategy on personal honor, observed the Nexari delegate. This is highly illogical, but somehow effective. Carthex made his decision. Very well, human. I will accept your offer. My fleet will retreat through the corridor. You have provided. Wait, Lisa said. Before you go, I want you to understand something. This isn't about you losing or me winning. This is about both of us learning something new about warfare. She began transmitting data to his ships, not tactical information, but historical records of human conflicts. Battle reports from Earth's. Wars showing how humans had fought throughout their history. Study these, she said. You'll see that humans don't always fight to destroy our enemies. Sometimes we fight to protect them from themselves. Sometimes we fight to give them a chance to become better than they were. Carthex's ships began moving toward the escape corridor. But instead of fleeing in shame, they moved with dignity. Lisa had given him something more valuable than victory. She had given him understanding. I do not understand your species, Carthex admitted as his fleet prepared to leave. You could have humiliated me completely. You could have destroyed my ships and proven human superiority beyond any doubt. Why did you choose mercy instead? Lisa's answer was simple but profound. Because proving we're superior isn't the point. The point is proving we're worth having as allies instead of enemies. As Karthex's remaining ships passed through the corridor, something unprecedented happened in the simulation. The Zephyrian commander did something that had never been done before in 3 years of competition. "Human fleet," he announced over the general communication channel. "I acknowledge your victory. But more than that, I acknowledge your wisdom. You have taught me that there are ways to win without destroying your opponent." The simulation chamber fell completely silent. Even the computers seemed to pause, as if they weren't sure how to process what had just happened. "Computer," called out the station administrator. "What is the official result of this simulation?" "Error," the computer replied. This scenario was not programmed into the simulation parameters. Human Commander Morgan has achieved victory through methods not included in the tactical database. Lisa emerged from her pod to find the entire observation deck staring at her in amazement. She had not only won the simulation, but she had done it in a way that challenged every assumption the aliens had about warfare. "How?" asked Commander Vexstar. "How did you know that mercy would be more effective than destruction?" "Because I studied more than just military tactics," Lisa replied. "I studied the commanders themselves. I learned that even the greatest warriors are still people with fears and hopes and the desire to be understood." Karthex also emerged from his pod. For the first time since the simulation began, the proud Zephyrian commander looked uncertain. He approached Lisa slowly, his 6 eyes studying her face. "You have changed something in me," he said quietly. "For years, I believed that strength came from the ability to destroy enemies. But you have shown me that true strength comes from the ability to create allies." The alien delegates were beginning to understand the implications of what they had witnessed. Lisa hadn't just won a military simulation. She had demonstrated a completely different approach to conflict resolution. "This human has shown us something we had not considered," said the Vethani Collective. "Perhaps there are forms of victory that do not require the defeat of one's opponents." Admiral Blake joined Lisa on the main floor of the chamber. "You did it," she said with tears in her eyes. "You proved that humans deserve a place at the galactic table." But Lisa was looking at something more important than her victory. She was looking at the faces of the alien delegates. For the first time, they were looking at humans not with condescension or amusement, but with respect and curiosity. "The real victory," Lisa said, "isn't that I won the simulation. The real victory is that I made friends instead of enemies." Karthex nodded slowly. "Your species fights unlike any other in the galaxy. You do not seek to dominate or destroy. You seek to understand and protect. Perhaps this is why you deserve a voice in galactic affairs." The simulation was over, but its effects would last for generations. Lisa had proven that humans brought something unique to the galactic community, not superior technology or perfect tactics, but the wisdom to know when not to use them. "Computer," Admiral Blake called out, "record this simulation for transmission to the Federation Council." "Recording complete," the computer replied. "Note: this simulation has established new parameters for conflict resolution. Recommend immediate review by all military academies." As the aliens filed out of the observation chamber, many of them stopped to speak with Lisa. They had questions about human psychology, human history, and human methods of warfare. For the first time, they were genuinely interested in learning from humans rather than simply observing their failures. "You have given us much to think about," Karthex said as he prepared to leave. "I will return to my people with a new understanding of what it means to be strong," Lisa smiled. "And I'll return to mine, knowing that even the greatest differences can be bridged with understanding and respect." The chamber emptied slowly, leaving only Lisa and Admiral Blake. They looked out at the stars through the great window, knowing that humanity's future among those stars was now secure. What happens now? Admiral Blake asked. Now we get to work, Lisa replied. We've proven we belong here. But belonging is just the beginning. Now we have to prove we can make a difference. The simulation was over, but the real work of building a better galaxy was just beginning. And for the first time in galactic history, that work would be guided not just by logic and efficiency, but by compassion and wisdom. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but through understanding. And that, Lisa knew, was exactly as it should be.